Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Sydney Future Students Diploma of Language Studies webinar. My name is Clara Sitbon. I'm a lecturer in French and Francophone Studies, and I am the director for the Diploma of Language Studies. And I'm very lucky to have with me two student panelists, which are going to introduce themselves right now. So, Arkady, do you want to start?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Arkady. So I finished 2 Diplomas of Language Studies last year, one in French and Francophone Studies and the other in Germanic Studies. And prior to that, I'd completed a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in English and Cultural Studies. And I'm currently doing a Masters of Teaching to become a high school languages teacher.
Thanks, Arkady. Tiffany?
Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany Wong. I don't have as many degrees as Arkady, but I did do a Bachelor of Arts Languages and I graduated last year. And I actually graduated from the diploma the year before, and my diploma was in French and Francophone Studies. Yeah.
Thank you both. I'll come back to you in a little bit. Before we begin our webinar, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture. I'm currently on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the land on which the University of Sydney is built. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. As we share our own knowledge, teaching, learning and research practices within this university, may we also pay respect to the knowledge embedded forever within the Aboriginal custodianship of country. I further acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of the country on which you are and pay respects to their elders, past, present and future. So I would like to also let you know that there is a little Q&A button, thanks to which you can ask questions. So don't hesitate to put your questions in and we'll get back to them towards the end of this webinar. So the first question is, why should you study a language? Well, in the current era where interconnectedness is key, cross-cultural and multilingual skills are integral to navigating the world around us. I just thought I'd share with you a few reasons why languages are a good thing to learn. Well, first of all, learning languages provides you with another way of thinking, another way or another perspective to look at the world. When you learn a language, you don't simply learn how to speak or write in a different language. You learn about cultural practices, you learn about histories, you learn about values, you learn about societies. And learning about other cultures opens your perspectives and allows you to reflect on your own culture and cultural practices. Languages, they boost your communication skills, of course. Graduates of languages often cite their language learning as one of the most valuable part of their degree because of the communication skills that they have developed throughout the process. And of course, this one is not to be neglected. The mastery of a foreign language will improve your marketable skills within the global economy. When you know another language, you become automatically more competitive in the job market. So let's delve a little bit deeper into what the Diploma of Language Studies is. It's essentially 48 credit points or 8 units of study in one of the following languages. So as you can see, we've got an amazing array of languages with Arabic, Hebrew, classical or modern, Chinese, French, German, Greek, ancient or modern. We've also got offering Indonesian studies, Italian studies, Japanese, Korean, Latin, Sanskrit, and Spanish. So there's a whole lot of different languages that you can choose as part of your diploma. So who can do a Diploma of Language Studies? Well, the diploma is open to students who are currently enrolled in an undergraduate degree or combined degree at the University of Sydney. But if you are already enrolled in a bachelor's, for example, you will need the approval of the dean of your home faculty to enroll in a diploma. The diploma is also open to students who are currently enrolled in an undergraduate degree or a combined degree at another recognized tertiary institution, but also to students who have been awarded or that are eligible for the award of an undergraduate degree by another recognized tertiary institution. So why should you choose to do a Diploma of Language Studies? Well, A Diploma of Language Studies is flexible, and I think flexibility is its main asset, because a traditional major in a language is 8 units or eight units of study in one language. A diploma, on the other hand, allows you to combine more than one languages if you choose to do so. And you can also do a diploma at your own pace. You don't have to study a language every semester. You can actually tailor the diploma to fit around the requirements of your main degree. And to help you understand this, let's go through a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that you are a student who is proficient in Japanese because you've done it in high school. You've also done a couple of electives for your bachelor in Japanese, but you love it so much that you want to continue. But the issue is your main degree does not have any more room for you to do so. Well, by choosing a Diploma of Language Studies, you will be able to pursue this passion you've got for Japanese, but also discover a language if you wish to do so. So for example, you could start with, say, 2 units of advanced Japanese and then move on to doing Arabic. So the flexibility of the diploma is not only in what it contains, but also in the duration of the diploma. There are several pathways that you could choose. The first one is to study a single language as part of your diploma, so a bit like a major. But you could also elect to study 2 languages or more if you want to do so, or just do a few electives that would amount to 48 credit points. We've also had, over the years, questions about placement. How do you know where to start your diploma? Well, once you are enrolled in your diploma, you will need to contact the undergraduate coordinator for your chosen language, who will be able to help you discuss your language background and the best language unit or level to start your diploma at. Now, how should one enroll in the Diploma of Language Studies? Well, you can simply go to our Diploma of Language Studies page and click on the Apply button. The process is pretty straightforward. All right, so now I'm going to come back to my 2 co-panelists, Arkady and Tiffany, who are going to talk a little bit more about what it's like to do a Diploma of Language Studies from a student perspective. So we're going to go through a couple of questions, and after that we will go to the questions that I can see are coming through the Q&A. So the first question is, what is a Diploma of Language Studies from a student perspective? Arkady, would you like to answer this one?
Yes, sure. So I think I would start, at least from my experience of doing the Diploma of Language Studies, it's quite similar to the little hypothetical that Clara discussed a few minutes ago, in that I had studied French and German for a few years at high school. And then when I came to uni and started a Bachelor of Arts, there was kind of so many subjects that I wanted to try that I kind of let my languages fall away a little bit. And it was only when I was entering my final year of the bachelor's degree, when I only had a couple of units left to finish, that I really started to think about the fact that I really wanted to pick up the languages again and really extend myself in that direction. But of course, I didn't have any space left in my original undergraduate degree to do any language units, let alone start an entire new major, which was where the diploma came in, because it basically meant that while I was finishing off those final Bachelor of Arts units, I could start my diploma language units at the same time. And I think that like flexibility is a really big part of this, because otherwise I was kind of probably a little bit aimless about what I was doing with my degree or what I was going to afterwards. But this gave me a very, I guess, convenient excuse to spend a couple of more years at uni. And it also allowed me to really delve a lot deeper into this whole language studies area that I really wanted to spend a lot more time in. And it was a really easy way to transition into that without, you know, without necessarily the requirements and constraints of starting an entire new bachelor's degree or postgraduate qualification or something, because obviously the diploma is a smaller qualification to undertake. You don't have to kind of commit the rest of your life to it. It's relatively easy to kind of get in there and work out how you want to do all those units. And then eventually, you know, you end up with that qualification. And I had, you know, a really positive experience doing it. I enjoyed it more than my original undergraduate degree. And, you know, obviously languages study is a really fulfilling and kind of enriching experience. And it was a really great way to kind of cap off what I'd already done at uni and get more into the languages. I might let Tiffany speak a bit about her experience.
Sure. So I guess I have to emphasize the flexibility. I'll give you a bit of context about my degree. So first year happened, I was studying a Bachelor of Arts, as mentioned, and I did Chinese studies already in my bachelor's degree, music and French studies. And it was after the first year, I decided I wanted to take on another major in my bachelor's degree, which was performance studies. But I couldn't fit all 4 majors together. So essentially I took the French studies out of the bachelor into the Diploma of Language Studies so that I could do all 4 at once. And yeah, so I guess from the student's perspective, the diploma just allowed me to further explore French and Francophone studies so that I could really flesh out my 3 majors in my bachelor degree as well as Chinese studies and have the 2 languages going on at the same time. It didn't really vary too much from my bachelor's degree because my bachelor's degree was also languages, unlike Arkady's experience. So yeah, I kind of knew what I was getting into.
Thanks very much. Let's move on to another question, which is also very important, which links to what you've just said a little bit. So why did you choose to do a Diploma of Language Studies? So I think, Arkady, you've already spoken to that a little bit. Tiffany, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, so as mentioned, it was mostly because of my degree structure and I wanted to do all 4 majors, but my degree only allowed for 3. And essentially with the Diploma of Languages, because I was able to do it in accelerated mode, that is, some of the units I could complete during the holidays, it meant that during semester I could focus on my Bachelor of Arts and then have the holiday to work on my Diploma of Languages. And it also allowed me to go on exchange for both my bachelor degree and my diploma. So I did 6 months studying for my Chinese studies major and then 6 months doing my French and Francophone studies major as well.
Thanks, Tiffany. Arkady, would you like to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so again, kind of like I mentioned, it was mostly the fact that I was really interested in doing more language study, but I'd kind of run out of feasible ways to fit it into my original degree. But I guess also in the back of my mind was this idea that I really wanted to complete a Master's of Teaching at the end of it as just the 3rd stage of my very long university journey. And I knew that I was quite interested in being able to become a languages teacher eventually. And so the diplomas were really a great way for me to brush up and really extend on my existing language skills to make sure that I then had the necessary qualifications to then enter the Master's of Teaching program. So it's kind of a really good, I guess I was thinking a little bit about, the future career prospects as well, and making sure that I was prepared for what I wanted to do further down the track.
And what's really interesting is that Arkady had experience with the languages that he chose in his schooling, whereas I picked languages that I had to start from beginner level. But I kind of knew going into university that we live in such a world where languages is such an asset. So that's why I was like, I have to pick a Diploma of Languages, I have to pick a Bachelor of Arts languages, because I just knew that language was going to be so important. And it really has become really important to the formative years of my young adulthood. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys. The next question is also an important one. It's about managing the study load when you're doing a diploma concurrently with another degree. So how did you both manage both study loads? Arkady, do you want to start with this one?
Yes. So I guess what was useful, I guess, when I was starting was that I only had a few subjects left to do from my initial undergraduate degree. So I was mostly focused on doing the diploma, and I found it not too difficult to undertake the study requirements for both, especially because I'd also had a few years of experience of doing subjects at uni. So I'd kind of learned different ways to balance my study life make sure that I was able to complete everything. But obviously, the way that language subjects work and kind of the way that assessments in those subjects work can often be quite different to a lot of other subjects as well. And at least from my experience, the language studies were quite almost a nice break in some ways, because the assessments were very spread out across the entire semester. So obviously part of learning a language is, you know, it's kind of, you're constantly practicing all the time. There's like lots of small tasks that you have to do to kind of build up your competence, you know, kind of every day or every couple of days throughout the semester. And so that meant that the study load was kind of much more spread out and evenly distributed, rather than waiting to do, you know, a 50% essay right at the end of the semester. It was kind of like every week or two, there was maybe a small 5 or 10% task. So it actually, in that way, it helped me a lot to stay on top of everything and achieve the work and not become too, I guess, overwhelmed with everything. Obviously, not all language units will be the same, but from my experiences, that kind of structure and I guess the nature of what it is to learn a language, I found it not too bad.
Thanks, Arkady.
I guess with my Diploma of Languages, I did most of the units during the holiday. And from my experience in first year, coming straight from school, I couldn't really comprehend that there were so many weeks off at university. Like, you had your 2 semesters, which are 13 weeks each, plus exams. So the diploma actually kind of helped me counter that, and I had something to do during my holidays. So I was quite lucky in that it didn't really infringe too much on like the time and that I needed to do my bachelor degree, and I could do the diploma every holiday, and I had somewhere to be and something to do. So yeah.
Thank you. The next question is a bit of a general question. It's a bit more broad. And it's about how studying languages opened doors for you. What did it bring to you, to your life, to your professional life, etc.? So, Arkady, would you like to take this one?
So I think, like, I've obviously mentioned already that the languages are kind of very key for what I'm doing at the moment in terms of my Masters of Teaching, in that, you know, if I didn't have those languages, I would clearly not be on my way to becoming a languages teacher. So it's been very kind of central to what I'm trying to do with that. But I guess in other aspects of my life, it's obviously languages opens a lot of opportunities for work and travel in other years that are not 2020, to other parts of the world, to kind of, you know, be able to travel and feel much more confident about interacting with people in other countries. There's lots of job opportunities overseas that are significantly aided. I mean, even job opportunities in Australia that are significantly aided by having additional language skills. And I would say during my, I guess, language study opportunities at uni, there's been a lot of kind of programs and activities that I've been able to become part of because of the language study, partly because generally the language classes are a lot smaller than the classes you would find doing other subjects. So you kind of develop a much better bond with the kind of student cohort and also with the teachers. I mean, at least in my experience, you often end up having the same teachers across multiple semesters. So you develop a really good bond with the department of the language that you're interested in. And therefore you kind of get lots of opportunities through that, that they will contact you and find things you can do. So for example, I volunteered in the past for Languages at Sydney, which is a program run to kind of speak to high school students about the experience of language study at university. And I've also been able to volunteer at the National French Teachers Conference 2 years ago, which was obviously a really great opportunity for me wanting to become a teacher, to kind of gain access to all these really interesting seminars and meet all these other French teachers that really, I guess, helped encourage me along my journey.
I think similarly, I had a really good university experience because I was learning a language. As mentioned, I got to go on exchange, and I went to Taipei for 1 semester, and then I went to France for another semester. And that was the first time I had ever lived away from home. So it was really daunting, but you know, because I could manage my way through ordering food or finding my way through the streets in the languages, I felt like I was able to connect with a totally new place, a new city, and a new group of people, which I never thought that I could do. And just adding on to Arkady's experience at university, the School of Language and Culture is just a great one. They really organise events. Last year they had the Intercultural Society, which sort of combined the cultural awareness and learning that you get through your degree, and create poetry or create theatre works or create short films. So it was sort of interesting to work with other people in the different departments. So like I'm from Chinese studies and Francophone studies, and I was working with people that had studied Korean studies, and so it was sort of interesting to like see how similar we had been able to have this cultural awareness, but how our understanding about the different cultures was so different. And it's sort of good to just have this intercultural mingling, even within our own university. So yeah, but I definitely recommend learning a language because you can just speak to so many more people that you wouldn't have been able to speak if you only spoke English or monolingual. Yeah.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'm conscious of time. I think perhaps now might be a good time to move to the Q&A, because I see that there's a fair few questions coming through. So I'm just going to go through the questions as they're coming on my screen. The first one is by an anonymous attendee saying, my interest would be to do a French, relatively proficient, and Italian. Well, good news, you can do both with a diploma. So you could start with a couple of units in French and then move on to Italian. The second question is, can you study the diploma once you have completed a degree? Yes, you can. If you've got a qualification from a tertiary institution and you got, oh, I've got my faculty colleague answering this question live. So I'm going to let them do it.
Yep, it's okay. You can keep doing it. I just clicked it so that you're answering.
All right. Okay, not a problem. Oh, the question is gone. All right. I'm going to move on to the next question. Can you study 4 languages at once, considering Korean, Chinese, Spanish, and French? Theoretically, you could. It's just going to be a bit tricky to articulate all the languages at once, depending on where you're at in your mastery of all these languages. So I think this is something perhaps we could discuss. If you were to contact me, we could have a longer discussion about this. The next question is from Alira, who is asking if the Diploma of Language Studies can be completed via distance learning, or is physical attendance on campus required? Well, at the moment, some of the units in languages are offered online due to COVID-19. Some are on campus. So this is not something I can have a definite answer on. We're not really sure what the next couple of years would look like, but it might be available online, but I can't confirm this at this stage. And then we've got a question from John, who says he's completed a medical degree and a Master's of Medicine, but has never undertaken an arts course. And he's asking if he'd be able to enroll. Yes, you would be. If you've got a qualification from another tertiary institution, you would be able to enroll. The next question is about PhD candidates. Yes, PhD candidates are eligible to apply and to enroll in the Diploma of Language Studies. It's a matter, again, of articulating your language studies with your PhD. So this will be done in consultation with your supervisor. And there might also be some limits to the number of language units that you can take a semester. The next question that we have is about an anonymous attendee saying that they want to continue learning Chinese. Good news, it is part of the diploma. If you don't have room in your bachelor or in your main degree, you can learn Chinese as part of your diploma. Next question, is it available virtually? Well, unfortunately, I'm not able to confirm that 100%. again, at the moment, some languages are offering classes on Zoom, and so, but it, you know, it's impossible to confirm this 100%
If I
just
may
yet.
quickly say something, Clara,
Sure.
even when I was doing my diploma, gosh, I was doing it in like 2016. I actually had some of my units available online. So if you're looking to do some in person and some virtual classes, then the diploma has a few options for you already.
Thanks, Tiffany. Can the diploma be paid through HEX? I believe so. Faculty colleagues, if I'm not right with this, I believe you can claim the diploma through HEX. The next question. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we've got.
Yes, you can if you're a domestic student, such as Australian citizen or resident or a New Zealand citizen. And there is another type of citizen, but the definition is available on the website. But yes, it's available for HEX.
Thank you. The next question is about the hours. What time do the classes tend to be at? Well, there are all times of the day, really. They're day classes, they're not night classes. And it will also depend on the language that you take and the level that you take. So typically, a French beginner's class will be 4 hours per week. Then if you go to a more senior class, you'll get 3 hours, but it's between 2 and 4 hours a week, depending on the language and depending on the level, but they're day classes usually. And the last question is about an aspirant international student from the Philippines. Unfortunately, the diploma is not available for international students just yet. And another question about honors. Someone's in the process of completing an honors year and considering doing the diploma next year. Are there any requirements given this, or can I simply apply? I believe you can simply apply. And if there's any issue with your honors, we'll be in touch about this, but I believe that honors student can also complete a diploma. There's a question for you, Arkady. How did you realize you wanted to become a language teacher?
I think it was mostly a combination of obviously really enjoying languages myself and also thinking back to the really positive experiences that I'd had with my language teachers both at high school and at university, and realizing that that was kind of what I could most see myself becoming, and kind of thinking about all the different subject areas available. I thought that language teaching would quite possibly be the most fun and rewarding.
Thanks, Arkady. There's another question about full-time work. I'm working full-time currently. How do I know if I can fit the classes around that schedule? Well, unfortunately, you can't really know it until you actually know the timetable for the classes. But for some languages, some classes can be a bit later. But this will be dependent on the department. This will be dependent on each language. I think I have answered all the questions, which is perfect because we've only got a couple of minutes to spare. Tiffany, Arkady, is there anything that you would like to add?
I would say just if you're interested in doing a language, I would really encourage you to go for it. You know, I was not 100% sure when I originally applied for the diploma that was, you know, I wasn't 100% sure that was what I really wanted to do. But obviously once I got into it, I loved it. So I'd say just apply for it. If you decide to change your mind later on, you don't really lose anything. So yeah, I just encourage you to get more involved in language learning.
Yeah, 100%. Like I finished my bachelor's degree last year and I was just about to apply for another diploma because languages is just so important to me, and I just can't imagine not having this language ability, which is really funny because I grew up monolingual until 18. So if you want to learn a language, just go ahead and have a go. Yeah.
And then there's one final question that popped up into the Q&A about studying 2 languages at the same time. My advice is try both. Try both. Decide which one suits you best.
Yeah, I actually started my diploma in Korean studies, which I loved, but it didn't really click for me, and then moved it to French. So, okay.
Thanks very much. Well, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much, Arkady and Tiffany, for coming to discuss your language experience with me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all the attendees. If we haven't been able to answer all your questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email or to connect with us through Facebook or Twitter. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.